Thanks for tuning in to the Medevac Podcast, powered by the Robert Irvine Foundation, whose mission is to support and strengthen the physical and mental well-being of our nation's heroes and their families. I'm one of your hosts today, David Reid.
And I'm your other host, Christian Meyers. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Medevac Podcast. If you're new here, there's a price for the show. You have to share it with a friend or family member if you're getting something out of today's episode. And we've got a pretty cool guest today. His name is Quint Avenetti. He's a former CW5 in the Marine Corps for about 28 years as a target acquisition officer. He's had a multitude of other jobs in his career, including embassy time, and bounced around and did some interrogation translation work, which is pretty interesting. So we're here to talk to Quint today. Thank you very much for joining us today, my friend.
Thanks for joining us, brother. And by the way, this is our first ever not in-person interview, and we're gonna try these out. So thanks for being patient with us today.
You bet. Thank you for allowing me to do this.
Absolutely,
that's great. Well, let's dive back into how many years did you serve?
So 28 years, start to finish.
Start to finish, and what inspired you to join?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You guys Army veterans? Either of you?
I'm Army.
Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my dad was a Marine, and growing up, all I heard was Marine stories, and I knew the Marine hymn before I knew my ABCs, and I found out that my dad actually got out of the Marine Corps and went in the Army. And one day, I think I was a junior in high school. We're sitting outside, and I said, "Hey, Pop, you always talk about the Marine Corps, but you got out of the Marine Corps and went in the Army. Well, what gives?"
Yeah.
I said, "If it was so great, why'd you get out?" And his answer was very simple. He said, "I wasn't man enough." And that's the day I decided to join the Marine Corps.
I wasn't man enough. Is this a true story?
True story. Yep.
That's great. I love it.
That's good. That is good. So you just decided the Marines. Did you know what you were going to do? Most guys who join the Marines have no idea what they want to do.
Same here. My dad, he says, you got to have a marketable skill. You need to get into computers. And so I signed up with a guaranteed computer operator guarantee. And I hated it. I just wasn't cut out for me, Back then it was loading tapes, and the disk drives were huge, like wedding cakes, and you could store. You got more power in your phone than we had in a whole building back then. And so I got out of that. Sure. I went on embassy duty. That was my way out. So I volunteered to go on embassy duty, and ended up in Central America, El Salvador, and that was during the Civil War, 81, 82. Yeah. A lot of cool stories about that, but we'll breeze through that a little bit. And then
war on drugs
war
too.
On drugs, like any young Marine, I was out there doing stupid things and got held hostage in a certain type of place for a few hours, and that made it big news back in the States. I almost got burned for that, but live and learn. And back then, you get.
Was this a legitimate hostage?
Yeah.
A legitimate hostage scenario?
Pistol in my head for a couple hours, yeah.
I thought you were making a joke.
No.
Pistol on the head. Now we have to dive into it. I mean, the suspense is just going to build too much. So you go to South America in support of the embassies, and you're doing stuff.
Yeah, doing my
offline,
job.
Or what's going on?
I was someplace I shouldn't have been with. A few other Marines were on Libo, and bombs going off down the street, and it was chaos, but we were kind of used to that. And some guy comes in, and he's shooting up all over the inside of this bar, and he says, "I'm looking for the Marines." And there was only one way in and out of that bar, and he was standing in that spot. So, push come to shove, he's saying, "I need a Marine that speaks Spanish." So I was the only one who spoke Spanish. So I said, "All right, what do you got?" And, by now all the power is out, so the lights are out. The gals are lighting candles. And, next thing you know, he's standing next to me, pistol in my head, and, saying, "All Marines come with me, we're going to the jungle." And I said, "No, we're not." Yeah. And by the time, it didn't take long for for me to notify the embassy via radio, and they sent all off-duty Marines and the local police and National Guard. They had the place surrounded, and I talked him out of it. We had a local security force called Pantera. They were SWAT guys, right? Plain clothes, bulletproof vehicles with gun ports, Uzis, and all that. And about the time I talked this guy out of his weapon and getting him out the door, Pantera, and they knew who I was. They come doing the Starsky and Hutch roll through the front door, come up with Uzis trained on me, and I'm yelling, no, they spotted, Avenetti. He was, oh, Avenetti. And they were cool, right? So we got the guy out there, and the local police handed him over to the Marines, who taught him a lesson, let's say. And
Sure.
And then they gave him back to the police, and never saw him again. But man, I'll tell you, I got my rights read to me by the gunny the next morning, and it wasn't pretty.
Oh man, that's a hell of a story.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up.
I don't know if I would have volunteered to speak Spanish, to be honest. I think I would have been.
I was 18 years old, and you do stupid things when you're 18. Good initiative, poor judgment.
Sure.
So
there we go.
That's my middle name.
Yeah, almost got taken to the jungle for a lesson on that one.
Yeah.
Huh?
Tell you what, it was better than going to the jungle with this guy. It was ugly times then, but
For sure.
But the good thing was I got my choice of anywhere else in the world for my second post, and I chose Geneva, Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And ended up having a great time, 18 months there, learned French, skiing in the Alps, and then it was time to come back to the real Marine Corps, and ended up in Camp Lejeune, doing a little interrogator translator work, and I requested out of there.
I feel like in the 80s, the mid 80s, Arctic was such a thing. Everybody was training for Arctic for some reason.
Norway, the caves in Norway, all that. Yeah.
Who would have thought? Maybe Russia.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, probably a Cold War thing, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of jungle, lots of Arctic.
Oh, yeah.
So what was next for you?
So after Geneva and coming back to the States, Camp Lejeune, I ended up as an interrogator translator for a little bit, and I was on the Spanish team. Go figure. And I
you got your
a quick lesson in critical Spanish, but I got out. I requested out of that. It didn't seem like a good fit for me. And I had just re-enlisted. They said, hey, you're going to go wherever Headquarters Marine Corps says. I go, fine by me. And I ended up in artillery and kind of found my home there. Linked up with a bunch of guys, and a little more roughshod than most, and, not quite the grunt. So we weren't, putting a ruck on and humping 20 miles, but still out there making the big guns go boom. And I liked that. But I only did that for about a year before I ended up on recruiting duty. And most guys would tell you horror stories about recruiting duty, but I kind of enjoyed it. I did well, meritorious promotion to staff sergeant, and runner-up recruiter of the year, and this and that. But 3 years out there, and it went pretty fast. Met my wife out there. Had to use that recruiting gift of gab.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was your recruiting station?
Phoenix, Arizona. But I also recruited out on the Apache reservation, San Carlos Apache. Oh. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I got stories I probably shouldn't even repeat here about that place, but it was more growth in life, right? And and 1 month I told the wife, we weren't married yet. I said, look, I'm having a rough month. I might have to have you join up for me, and all you got to do is ship out to boot camp. You don't have to finish. And she's like, are you serious? I go, no, but it sounded good. Yeah. Why not?
That's funny. Gotta get that. Quote.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's a thankless world out there, hero to zero from 1 month to the next. But I left recruiting duty, got orders to Hawaii, to the 1st Marine Expeditionary Brigade out of K-Bay, Kaneohe Bay. And then, Desert Storm pops up, and, now I'm a staff sergeant. We're out in the desert, and Commandant then was Al Gray, just a legend in the Corps. And Al Gray came out and said, I want to promote a couple of Marines out on the battlefield. And okay, well, not going to be me. Well, ended up, I was one of them. And so I got a battlefield promotion to gunnery sergeant by the Commandant of the Marine Corps and the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. They came out on Christmas Day and pinned it on us, and that was pretty neat.
Wow.
But then, we with the Battle of Kafji, some pretty cool stuff, but not very long. And then we're outside the hooch. I'm standing next to the battalion commander. This is after cessation of combat, and I'd done some things in Kafji and that kind of got some attention. And so we're out taking a leak in the sand, and he says, "Gunny, you ever think about becoming a warrant officer?" I said, "Not really, sir." He says, "Well, we get back, I want you to put in a warrant officer package." And I said, "Yeah, you got it, sir, sure." And never thought about it again. Well, we shipped back to K-Bay, and I'm down there doing my thing. I got an 80-some man platoon of Marines, and I'm living large. And I get a call from the battalion commander. So I go up there, lock my heels, and I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Gunny, why don't I see a warrant officer package on my desk for you?" And I said, "Well, sir, I don't think I want to be a warrant officer. I'm doing pretty good. I'm a gunny. I'm 10 years. Life doesn't get any better." He says, "Well, I'll tell you what, if I don't have a package on my desk in 3 days, you won't be my operations platoon sergeant any longer." And aye, sir. And I got my package in. And so, I figured, they're not going to do this. I got myself orders back on embassy duty, and I was going to go out to some Central American country, pull a coup and take over the country. I don't know. Who knows, right? Well, I went up for the board, the brigade board, and all these majors and colonels are around the table, and they're looking at my book, and this lieutenant colonel looks up. He says, "Gunny, I notice you don't have any off-duty education." I said, "Yes, sir, you're right. You're looking at my record in front of you. You see, I've been pretty busy." He says, "Yeah. Well, this warrant officer thing is pretty competitive. What are you going to do if you don't get picked up for warrant officer?" And I said, "That's not a problem, sir. I'll go on to be a sergeant major of the Marine Corps." And every head picked up and looked at me like, "Who's this knucklehead?" And but they ranked me number one out of brigade. I ended up getting picked up for warrant officer, and so began the second half of my career.
So and wow. I know warrant officers, very, very interesting MOSs, different jobs. What were you going to be doing as a warrant officer?
So I was selected from my first choice, target acquisition officer. And a target acquisition officer is supposed to be an expert in counter battery radar, in geodesy, surveying, slide rules and theodolites and steel, 30-meter steel tape. That's what I learned on when I first started. We transitioned into GPS, and meteorology is the other one that we had to be an expert in. Those were the three things. And we were basically the commander's technical expert on anything related to artillery, but specifically those things. And that's what I went about becoming, was the very best that I could be in those disciplines. And I got assigned, the thing about a warrant officer is you never leave the operating forces once you're a warrant officer. That there is no place else for you to go. But you will be with artillery, or later in my time as a warrant, assigned to the division fire cell for the 1st Marine Division. Probably my most exciting tour, because that took me into Iraq for OIF-1, under Mattis, Dunford, Kelly. I mean, like talking to you, right? And I'm sitting next to these pillars of wisdom in warfighting. And what a fire hose feed of knowledge that was. So, and that's when we transitioned the Marine target acquisition officer into targeting, which is really where we have growth now. There were 21 of us back then. Now there's, I believe, 34. And that's because we're in places like CENTCOM, Southcom, some of the other combatant commands where they have high-level targeting going on.
And so what does targeting actually look like? Because that's significantly different than what you
Oh,
did
yeah.
previously.
So targeting is basically process-driven. It's taking target indicators. It's assigning attack guidances. It's developing sensor synchronization matrices, battle space shaping matrices. You're really looking at the whole battle in a 5-dimensional approach. So X, Y, and Z, like any map and elevation, but time and space becoming even more important as you look at the enemy, their capabilities, establish high payoff target centers of gravity, critical vulnerabilities, and you get into the enemy's head, and then you figure out, okay, what are my priorities? What does he have to have that I need to take out? And that's how we develop our target list and our priorities for engagement. And it's a lot more in-depth.
And you had fun with this.
Oh, my God, yeah, it was
Lots of math.
lots
probably.
of math, but I also, a quick story where I was the first Marine warrant targeting officer in the Corps. So I got put into the G2 cell when we were about to head up into Baghdad. And, the intel guys are looked at me like, who's this Artie guy, I was a W4 at the time. And they put a couple of MRE boxes over in the corner. They said, hey, Gunner, you can put your stuff over there. I'm like, all right. I said, I need a UAV feed, and then I need my laptop here hooked up, and I'll stay out of your way. Well, as soon as they gave me my UAV feed, and we just started whacking targets left and right. And I had the G2 staff, the young enlisted Marines were going, hey, it's Gunner over there. Are you just like killing targets? I go, well, not just any target. They got to be the right target, collateral damage, and all this stuff. And because there was one of me, and then I had 2 more guys that were assigned to me, a W1 and a major. And they said, hey, we got to pack up. We're heading back to the main CB. So I went back to the main, still doing our job, and we're rotating in and out. And I get back up to the jump CP as we continue the battle. Well, it was great. They had a little desk for me. They had the UAV feed piped in. I had people standing behind me waiting on hey, Gunner, I got a target for you. I got a target for you. Like, roger that. We do my target selection stuff and salute reports and all this and decide whether we're going to take them out. I had a Pioneer UAV assigned to me, right? And we're heading up towards Baghdad. We're getting into Baghdad now. And I'm ahead of the battle, right? So it's shaping. My job is to kill the targets the day before the grunts get to them. So I've got a bird up there deep looking at targets, and I'm just swacking stuff left and right. I get a MiG on an airfield. I take it out. And I like to tell pilots, say, how many MiGs have you taken down? And they're like, well, none.
Yeah,
I got one.
And what are you shooting downrange? What's your
So
artillery?
it's not just artillery. Matter of fact, I shot very little artillery. I think I massed 1 artillery mission, 1 regiment. I had rockets. I had ATACMs. And most of the Army warrants after the war, they're like, there's no way you didn't shoot ATACMs. I go, yeah, I got 42 ATACMs missiles. And I shot Tomahawk. I shot a lot of air to ground delivered ordnance, F-14s, F-18s, Harriers, you name it. So, and
Wow.
napalm,
Very cool.
and napalm. So,
Wow.
yeah, so this is a good one, right? We're in a Division C.
Well, for napalm, when were they last using napalm?
Vietnam.
Because I don't think we've used that in.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in a quick battle huddle with General Mattis, my boss, me, and the division chief of staff. No, the division opso. And I said, "Look, I got a target underneath this bridge, the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates. It's a palm grove, and it's full of bad guys. And I got a UAV overhead. I'm like a live feed." He said, "Are you sure they're still there, Gunner?" I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "All right, take him out." I go, "Yes, sir." And I start to walk away. He says, "Use napalm." Stopped, and he walked away, right? And Mattis' call sign was chaos. I look at my boss and I go, and he was an Army lieutenant colonel, freaking brilliant guy, Smythe, Gary Smythe. I look at my boss, Gary Smythe, and I go, "Sir, we don't have napalm." He goes, "Yeah, I know, but you go tell chaos that." Now I walk away, I'm like, "Oh, hell no, I'm not telling him that." So I go over to the air boss, right, the Direct Air Support Center, and I to this major, and I go, "Hey man, look, we got a target we got to take out. Chaos said we got to use napalm." He goes, "Gunner, we don't have napalm." And I go, "Well, you better tell Chaos that." And he's like, "Well, let me make a phone call." And he comes back, he goes, "Gunner, we got napalm. We just call it this other mixture, right? And it takes 13 hours to mix up." I said, "Better start mixing." And they did. We missed horribly. And it was, after all that, but you remember the Vietnam movies, right? They come in low and they roll it, right? And
Yeah.
well, I'm like, "Hey, I can't even see it. I got my bird up there and I'm saying pan wide and I see a glowing ember in the Tigris." I go, "You put it in the river." They're like, "Hang on, Gunner, we got -2 coming in." I'm like, "All right." Same thing. I go, "You missed." They're like, "Gunner, maybe you gave us bad coordinates." I'm like, "Oh, I don't give bad coordinates. Never." I said, "Y'all missed." So they come back and they said they were dropping from 15 Angels. Like, "You dropping 15,000 feet napalm?" They're like, "Well, that's the floor." I go, "We have a fire support coordination center. We could coordinate you busting that floor to come down and drop the napalm." "Oh, never mind. I got some other birds coming in and put some heavy bombs on it." And we did. But my napalm story. After the war, they sent me to the Joint Targeting School. I'm talking to this Navy commander is talking to the class. He says, "These are all the munitions we have in our arsenal." And I raised my hand and said, "Yes, Mr. Avenetti." And I said, "Sir, you're missing one." He goes, No, I'm pretty sure this is all of them right here." I go, "No, sir." He goes, "I got a feeling you know something that maybe I don't." I go, "You're missing napalm." He goes, "Well, Mr. Avenetti, we haven't had napalm since Vietnam." I go, "I dropped it a couple of months ago." He's like, gives me this look. We go on break. After the break, he gets up and publicly apologizes to me for, doubting me. I said, "I wouldn't have said it if I didn't do it." But yeah, he goes, "I found this story." Yeah. So yeah.
That's too funny.
That's
What
crazy.
what aircraft did they use to drop that? Were they using fighters or?
I believe they were F-14s.
Okay.
Yeah. And the F-14's
Yeah.
great bird. What a beast. Carry
Sure.
tons of bombs. Loud, but fast, tons of bombs.
Yeah.
I missed a couple of Frog missile launchers one night. F-14s came in off the carriers, and it was a little bit misty out. So they were going to do some laser designation, fire some hellfires at these missiles, and they can't do it. We got RTB. The lasers aren't working, in this weather. So they RTB'd, and they said, "Don't worry, we got another section of dumb bombs coming in." So, we're four of them. What a sweet target, 4 missile launchers on the side of the road. You can see the guys smoking cigarettes. And we scared the hell out of them. Got one mobility kill, but the other 3 got away. Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
all
impressive.
sorts of missions.
Crazy stuff. And you're watching this on ISR the
I'm
entire
watching
time,
in live, from
Or
our
UAV.
birds,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. So that must have been kind of your jam,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you went from leading, 80, 90 dudes as a gunny to that. What did you enjoy the most?
I think the adrenaline of knowing you're doing something critical to the success of the mission, right? You got a whole division that's relying on you to clear, to shape the battle space for them. And I'll tell you, I had every asset I wanted at my disposal. The Army off on our flank were sending birds back. That they're like, hey, we got no targets for you. Go check in with the DASC. And I always had targets. And we were swacking them left and right.
So, what year was this?
This was 03 when we went into Iraq.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you retired out when?
In 08. Yeah, they put me out to pasture
Okay.
after I got back. And, the 1st Marine Division was going back into Iraq, into Baghdad. And so I'm ready to gear up and go back in. And my boss comes in and says, hey, Quint, I got a call from the colonel out of Fort Sill, the schoolhouse. Says he'd like you to come out there and teach what you did. And I said, sir, I've done a gig at Fort Sill, been there, done that. I'd rather not. I'll go back to Iraq with the division. Well, my boss, the regimental commander, says, well, Quint, have you talked to Slim? And that's my wife, right? And I go, well, no, sir. I make the decision. He says, talk to Slim. So, go home that night. Hey, look, Colonel said they want me to go back to Fort Sill. And I'd already done a tour at Fort Sill. And I told him, I'd already done that. She goes, yeah, we've already been there, She goes, so what if you don't go back? I said, well, I'm going back into Iraq. She goes, oh, we're going to Fort Sill. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And the colonel says, Quint, we're going to be digging wells and building schools. There's not going to be anything to blow up. So I miss out on Fallujah 1, Fallujah 2, maybe a good thing, blessing in disguise, but yeah.
Could be.
So I was put out to pasture. with
Yeah,
the
that's
Army.
a tough one though. I feel like a lot of CW5s go through that choice. It's school or it's strategy or it's operations. You have the ability to stay in a lot longer than most because what you said there was 21 of you guys back in the day. Yeah, so that's a rare bird. Having that choice, it's got to be a difficult one.
It is, and here's the thing: if I didn't retire after my obligatory time in grade, no one's going to get promoted in my field. So I told my community, I'm going to do my required time and serve time in grade, and then I'm going to retire and make room for somebody else to move up. So I kept my word. Added about 6 months because I had my oldest son in school, a senior in high school.
Yeah.
The amount of technical prowess it takes to be able to do that job in the first place, especially pre-GPS, using slide rules and things along those lines, it's pretty interesting. So I'm curious how the technological progression helped you, or how did you find it? Did you find it beneficial? Did you find it more difficult or easier transitioning from more analog things to more digital?
It made a lot of things easier, but it didn't make us smarter, if that makes sense.
Yes. Absolutely. Makes you reliant.
Back in the Desert Storm, we had to do a grid-to-grid convergence because we had maps that were of different datums. And now you talk to somebody about datums, ellipsoids, geoids, and they're like, spheroids, what's that? You talk. Yeah. My retirement rocking chair they gave me is engraved. It says, the earth is a potato. because I used to go around the Army and the Marine Corps, even joint and coalition conferences, and give a class on why the shape of the Earth is so important, because it is a potato, and you have geoidal undulations, and you have spheroids that are shaped as close as they can get. Then you've got ellipsoids that are even closer, and then you've got a datum that's specific to a certain area, and it's all because of the elevation. And so I give a class on why it's important to understand this. Well, now with GPS, man, is it important? Yeah, it really is, but you don't need to know.
Yeah, I always think, back to the fundamentals, back to the basics, being able to train on the analog. I mean, in Rangers, we're on maps. Like, that's kind of
Absolutely.
our thing, right? Land navigation. You got to be able to read a map, use a compass, shoot an azimuth, all that stuff. Because, and especially like in today's world, we're so reliant on technology. Solar flare just puts it all to rest, right?
right.
And then what do you do? So training analog is equally as important.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt. And we were sure to maintain that conventional source of knowledge throughout my time, at least. And I perpetuate that now with things I do for my Young Marines program, my Boy Scouts when I was a Scoutmaster. Land Nav, Terrain Association, map and compass. What's your pace count? You got your ranger beads, right? How are you navigating?
Yep.
So yeah.
Much needed. Yeah, it's a scary world. And you said now, and we're going to jump into this here in a little bit, but you're working with drones.
Yeah.
Going from, way back in the day where you're reading from a map to these things where you don't even have someone flying it anymore. These AI and facial recognition.
Yeah.
The battle space has changed, and you're still involved in that world. So, what is that progression for you? I kind of like to ask the question is like, would you want to be on the battlefield today with all this stuff? You see in Ukraine, these guys don't even see it coming anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's like flying IEDs. We dealt with that in GWAT, right?
Yeah.
Was the ID problem. Now you got these things flying at you, heat seeking.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's scary.
I mean, from the drone perspective, you had a great ball on there and you had great cameras, right? So you're getting pretty good video feed. You're getting decent geolocation, but it was pretty sketchy and it would wave in and out. So targeting was a little more challenging. Then we started hanging synthetic aperture radar underneath them. We started hanging LiDAR underneath them. And we started hanging all these different sensors under these birds. And you're able to do so much more. And then we add in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I know a little bit about that. I've got a couple of patents on that stuff. That is a game changer because you get automated target recognition mixed with the autonomy of a smart bird that gets smarter and smarter, and couple that with some of the speeds we're achieving. And now you've truly leapt forward in technology and accelerated the battle, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what Ukraine just used when they went into Russia and destroyed 60 bombers, 60 of their largest bombers. They used drones with automated systems, AI recognition, and I think my assumption is that they were all guided by INS system instead of GPS. So it's all inertial navigation system. So it's self-contained. There's no emission.
Yeah.
So you don't get jammers.
Jammers won't do anything to it because it uses its own inertial navigation system internally.
It's a what's the opposite of Wi-Fi? Local network.
Yeah,
so it's like got its own local.
Yeah, so it's got a gyro in it, and every time you move, it just uses inertia to measure the distance that it's moving, the direction it's moving, based on an initial GPS coordinate. So it only needs the coordinate once, and then it can navigate.
Self-navigate, pitch rolling.
Genius.
Genius
Well,
systems.
think
think
Scary.
about this. In 2005, I was still in uniform, and the commandant of the artillery school, a guy named Phil Graham, Army colonel, got a call to stand up a Tiger team because we were getting a lot of guys wounded by indirect fire. So me and another Marine warrant officer and a couple Army warrants, we got together and they wanted us to figure out the radar piece. So we developed what became known as CRAM. You may have heard of it in country. The big voice and, the R2D2, the gun, right? The phalanx weapon system, pulse weapon system. So we did the radar piece, right? We established how a radar could derive state vector data, duplicative hit so that you have redundancy, confirmation. Yeah, we know we've got something in this hyperellipsoid. We're pretty damn sure it's an indirect fire threat coming at us. And we took this to the colonel, and he says, "Gents, good job. You've solved our radar piece. Network timing protocol, put multiple radar in the same timing protocol in the same network. But now, how do you think we're going to shoot these out of the sky?" And me and the other Marine looked at him and we kind of laughed, and he wasn't laughing. He goes, "We're going to shoot these out of the sky, Gunner." I go, "Well, sir, how are we going to do that? With a shotgun?" He says, "Kind of. We're going to take the phalanx weapon system off the Navy ships and put them on a low boy and network their KU band radar into our radar and then pass that off to them. They get it, bye-bye." And it worked.
Yeah, use some airburst and so some airburst rounds, and so you were part of developing that whole reverse azimuth, reverse trajectory system.
Yeah. You figure out where it came.
Wow, that is incredible.
Where it came from, where it's going, and I still do radar stuff today. It's intriguing. I think it's intriguing. Yeah. Wow. And now apply some quantum computing to it, and AI, ML, and neural network, and that's what you're going to see when this golden dome comes out.
So, without disclosing too much OPSEC here, where is this going? What are we going to see? What are we seeing now?
I'll tell you.
That's chain.
I'll tell you, in my mind, any solution moving forward has to take advantage of digital radar, apply a neural network, convolutional neural network. There are several layers to a dynamic neural network that will chop up assignments right within the processing of radar acquisition. And if it's all digital, you can accelerate the timeline and the accuracy of acquisitions. And you network these radar throughout whatever battle space you're covering or ground you're covering. You can, and when you've done this, you've truly created a dome of protection, of acquisition, I'll say. I don't want to misnomer. People, we used to have infantry commanders say, "Gunner, I need that protection dome over me of the radar." I said, "No, it's not going to protect you. I'm going to tell you when a round's coming at you, but it's not going to take the round out until later." But
it's going to advise you.
And now we can take them out of the sky. And we're seeing it overseas, but we can be better, and that's part of what the neural network and digital radar will bring us.
So this is the entire next version of like an IADS system for for the future, I guess. And for those who are unaware, IADS is Integrated Air Defense System. It's typically it's a battery of radar detection along with countermeasures that integrate together, kind of like Quint is saying here. But so this is really the next step, and I imagine we're going to have detection zones well outside the U.S. that will feed back towards the U.S. to give us alerts well ahead of schedule. I'm assuming satellite systems will be integrated into this as well.
Think of a true
What about sonar?
So there's some validity to that. The thing is speed of sound, right? So that can get you some goodness, but it's not going to be the the next solution.
Yeah, it's a little too slow compared to
Yeah.
light systems or
Yeah.
digital systems.
Yeah,
That
So,
makes,
so hard to improve as well. That's kind of my
Yeah,
point.
you're bound by the laws of physics. And I got
Yeah.
another quick one for you. So my successor that went out for OIF2 was out there in First Marine Division, and General Mattis was in charge, obviously. And he said to my buddy Gunner, we took some incoming last night. Did the radar pick them up? And my bud says, no, sir, it didn't. We missed them. He says, why did we miss them? And he said, well, sir, it's the laws of physics. And Mattis stopped him and he said, Gunner, the laws of physics do not apply to the First Marine Division. Fix it. but some things are truly limited by the laws of physics, right? And you just have to figure out ways to defy them and squeak a little bit more out.
Yeah, that's interesting space, and you're still involved in it. You know, I mean, seeing it since the '80s to now.
Yeah.
It's got to be, I mean, just baffling,
Phenomenal,
and scary at the same time.
It is. It is, especially the autonomy, AI, ML. Yeah.
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 So you said you had a couple of patents. I don't want to pry too hard if we're crossing into opposite territory.
No.
But what are your patents relative to in this range?
So it's with my good friend Dr. Larry Regans. We developed a patent for predictive numerical prediction in weather that can work without connectivity to the internet. So standalone, you lose comms. I can still tell you what my weather's going to be within a certain zone to a certain level of accuracy for a certain period of time. And it's using AI, ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning.
Okay.
And then we did a second patent on digital radar. So my point to digital radar is assigning a neural network to digital radar and taking it to the next level of processing capability, because a lot of what radar see gets dropped because it doesn't meet M of N criteria. It doesn't pass that SNP test. And so we say, no, it's not what we're looking for. And then the boom goes off and you're going, oh, how did we miss that? Getting a smarter radar, right?
Okay.
So those are my two patents. And then we've got a provisional one, which I call it the baby golden dome, because that's really what it is, networking all this. But yeah.
That's incredible. Now I'm curious, the weather one, is the AI ML using like inferences? Is it using just like a matrix or a matrices based on past data, versus what you're currently gathering to make those inferences?
Yes,
or?
yes, and yes. So historical climatological data, that's step one, right? Farmer's almanac, so to speak. And then you start regionalizing and you start injecting recent weather data and phenomena, and then you always start with what is standard atmosphere, right? And how will we affect that with fronts, with current weather conditions? What sensors do I have that can feed me right now? And then
barometer.
Anemometer, sling cyclometer thing, whatever you got out there, right? Yep, wind's about 10 knots.
The weather rock.
Yeah, the weather rock, right? It's wet.
Must be raining.
Must be raining. So all these things contribute to making it smarter. And there's where the machine learning comes in, to where it's starting to say, I thought it was going to do this yesterday, but it did that. And I think I figured out why. Now I'm going to get smarter, right? Or vice versa. Yeah.
Sure. Man, that's...
God, wild stuff.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Some of the stuff you came up with is so impressive, my friend. And I'm glad you mentioned earlier that they when they were doing your review for Warrant Officer Packet, they mentioned no external education, like it's a major factor. And here you've been able to create some incredible systems and manage some of the most difficult math and physical systems in existence. I mean, connecting these things together. Truly incredible, truly impressive.
High school graduate, when I joined the Corps, I got my degree after I retired from the Corps in business, not in anything, But I tell people, look, I graduated 13 in my class. They're like, wow, Quint, that's pretty good. I said, yeah, there were 26 of us. But, Arizona, Hayden High School in middle of nowhere, Arizona, copper mining town. And that was my roots, right? Adobe house. And we didn't have money for college, so off I went to the Corps. But I learned from everyone around me. I learned from those Vietnam vets, that were teaching me about the old radar, the old surveyor, the old gunnery, and I absorbed that stuff. And then it created intellectual curiosity. So I went to teaching myself more and more and investigating, right? Be curious.
Yeah.
You can't beat experience at the end of the day.
Amen.
Just getting hands-on opportunity to get in there, see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And you took advantage of that. And also, like I said, Rare Bird, a CW5 is a huge accomplishment. And it's few and far between that you see a lot of these guys. And you're continuing to serve now, which is impressive. It's fantastic. And I know from our earlier conversation that you're continuing to serve our fellow veterans, our community as well. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Some of your passion projects that you're working through now?
So I've been retired now 18 years. And the first thing I got involved with was a local Boy Scout troop. And I had, two younger ones at home. The older one was already, in college. But my younger ones got in the Scouts. And I found that I was so motivated by these kids and their thirst for knowledge. And I put my heart and soul into it. My two youngest boys earned their Eagle Scout. One's in the Marine Corps, one's in the Space Force right now. But
awesome! A guardian.
we got a guardian.
You don't meet too many of those.
No, he was one of the.
Meet too many of those.
He's one of the first ones that cross-decked over. He was.
Awesome.
They interviewed like 1,000 at Vandenberg. He was in the Air Force, and they said, "Hey, we're taking applications for the Space Force." So out of the 1,000 or so that applied, they selected 6, and he was one of them. And so now he's serving Space Force.
That is great.
And then my youngest one,
That's awesome.
the other one had joined the Air Force. And my oldest one, that wasn't meant for military service, but he's in the beer force. He runs a beer warehouse. And so we got a group of veterans here, a band of brothers here in Rockwall. And I go up one day and they're like, Quint, you okay? A gunner joined the Air Force. I go, yeah, look, I got one more. And if you don't join the Corps, I'll make another one, with or without her. And the wife's going, yeah. But he joined the Corps, thank God. So
That's funny. Nice. What's he doing in the Marine Corps?
he's a grunt right now, and he's a
Nice.
Red Tab Marine Corps martial arts instructor trainer. So he's right now training,
Oh, yeah, okay.
teaching a class to become martial arts instructors. And he's a little dynamo, that guy, just a fire plug, and short guy, you don't want to cross him in an alley. Yeah. And he got his two black belts before he even joined the Corps, and that just added to the whole package. But good fit for a Marine Corps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I just heard the recent commandant in the Army. I just have to say it as you have the bayonet on the back of your wall there. At the 250th Marine Corps Gala I went to this year, the commandant got up and he said, Marines, he said, exist for one purpose, and that's to stab a man in the heart with a bayonet. He said this at a dinner, by the way, like I said, a black tie gala, and I just absolutely loved it. And it just reminded me of that. This guy's got a double black belt before he comes in, just the lethality of this guy. And then you give him the tools to stab a man in the heart with a bayonet.
just make it's icing on the cake.
I love it.
And
Yeah, exactly.
so and actually that bayonet on that
love
M1 Garand behind me, that bayonet was my father's bayonet from his time in the Corps. Yeah. So
World War II?
no, Korea, 53, went,
Okay.
He was actually based out of K-Bay as well. So first Marine Amphibious Brigade back then, and then I show up there 30 years later for one of my assignments. But
Fantastic.
How cool is that?
so So 18 years retired, I get involved with Boy Scouts, help mentor 35 Eagle Scouts from our community out here. We're rich with great kids, and the two of mine included. And then I got out of Scouts when my boys, they're done, and now it's time for me to get out of the way and let some other adults in. And I got involved with the Marine Corps League. And the Marine Corps League here, we set up our own detachment, the Chief Warrant Officer 2, James W. Randolph Detachment, named after a World War II veteran whose son is a member of our detachment. And he was born in Shanghai, China. His father was a China Marine before World War II kicked off. But he wasn't a sergeant, so he wasn't allowed to get married. But he did. And his wife and him had a son. And when they shipped out, when the World War II started, young James W. Randolph Jr. and his mom were put in a Japanese concentration camp for the duration of the war. And wow. He's got an extraordinary story. And he got into education, became principal at Rockwall High School for 10 years, and they just named our new Marine Junior ROTC facility after him. But so getting involved with the veterans, right? I found that the Band of Brothers, the Marine Corps League, our American Legion out here, were a really good medicine for veterans. And then we get into kind of what I call the plight of the veteran. And it's a plight if you allow it to be. It's a battle if you let it be. But when you maintain a positive, forward focus doing things, you leave little time to dwell on the things that rattle around in the back of your brain, right, that you try to lock away. And then my neighbor, Joe Lynch, Silver Star recipient, Vietnam, saved a Marine up in Quezon. And every time he tells a story, it's like a platoon of Marines and a company of Marines and a battalion of Marines.
Yeah, it's always, the fish always gets bigger, doesn't it?
I love him. He brought me into this thing called Veterans Court as a mentor. And this Veterans Court thing is extraordinary. It's run by a Marine veteran, a judge named John Roach. Phenomenal man. He stood up the first of its kind regional Veterans Court in the country, and it encompasses 5 counties. And you've got to get buy-in from the district attorneys and the leadership in these counties, the commissioners. They have to buy into this program to stand up a veterans court. He did it in 5 counties. And he goes around, and he's still got his day job, right? But he goes around to each one of these counties once a month to actually hold a court. He's got a team. And when a veteran, and I'll round back to this, right? When a veteran gets off active duty, and I'll, right here too, right? You kind of walk out into the rain without your slickers on, or Marines don't use umbrellas, so I don't have an umbrella. But you're kind of walking out into the rain, right? And it's a little bit scary, it's a little bit weird. And then you're bringing with you all the things that you may have done, seen, and now you've got potential for problems. And some veterans end up looking for a solution in a bottle. Mostly it's a bottle. Some into drugs. Some just make stupid decisions and get in trouble for battery, assault, breaking and entering, whatnot, right? Male and female. And there's no distinction. Enlisted officer. I've got guys in the program that are lawyers, that are successful business owners. And there's no distinction, but they've tried to find a solution where the solution really doesn't belong, and it isn't there. It's actually a deeper problem that they're getting into, and so they get popped on a DUI, and they get popped on narcotics or something like that. And because they were honorably discharged, they have an opportunity to plead into the Veterans Court. And the DA has to agree, the judge and his team have to agree that they'll accept them in. That this guy's a rapist, a murderer, they're not gonna take him. But
sure.
But and so we look to salvage these guys, to give them that one word back that they seem to have maybe forgotten, and that's honor. And 201, they come in and plead in, and they look like they just got released from a drunk tank, and some of them have. But they look horrible. You can see it in their face, in their posture, everything about them. And what Vet Court does is it structures a program around each one individually for counseling, for therapy, for treatment plans. And they're held accountable by the court team and the judge. And every month they stand before him, and he looks them in the eye and he talks to them. Doesn't talk at them. He talks to them. How you doing? How you feeling? Tell me about your month. Give me one good thing, or tell me something I don't know about you. And through this process, and the first 90 days, they've got to attend 90 AA meetings. No compromise. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
But they do it.
90.
And yes, phenomenal. And I see the change. So I'm a mentor. We get, every veteran that goes through the program gets assigned a mentor. There's 6 of us on our team. And we divvy it up. We'll typically have about 6 or 7 per mentor. We'll have 6 or 7 veterans assigned. And within that 90-day process, that window, you see a transformation. And they start to act like a unit as a whole. And they're not, they're in there individually, but they start to act like a unit. They assign, they pick a leader. They have their Monday night vet group where they exchange things, they talk about things, and slowly they regain that honor. And this program is no joke. And they get community service, and they have to do an interlock system. They got to blow in a thing before they get in their vehicle, and there's so many requirements. Some of them, like, you know what? Just put me in jail. Very few. And they're in this program for about roughly 2 years. There's no real time limit, but they're in it for about 2 years.
Okay.
And they accelerate through phases. And the judge says, hey, it's like boot camp. You're phase 1, you got your collar buttoned up all the way, your trousers are unbloused, you look like a soup sandwich. And then you get to phase 2, and you open up the collar, you blouse your boots, and now you're starting to look like a Marine, like a soldier, or whatever branch you were in, right?
Yeah.
And you regain that pride. And it's amazing to see. And by the time they're through with the program, and when they do that, when they promote, they request permission to promote. They fill out a packet. They got to put down their trigger action plan. They have to do an essay. There's so much. I mean, it's a lot. And they're working full-time jobs and, supporting a family, raising kids, all these things.
Yeah.
And at the end of that,
That's fantastic to hear.
it's truly amazing. And guess what happens when they finally commence from the program? Not graduate, but commence. The judge doesn't like graduate. There's some bad connotations. It means we're done. So they commence, and they commence their next stage in life. Their record is expunged. Never happened. Never. They've got their life back.
That's
I've
incredible.
had firefighters get their jobs back with the fire department. So many stories, and we've had some that have just they went off the deep end. We've had some commit suicide. We've had some get out and commit murder. But the recidivism rate for Veterans Court, for those that don't know, recidivism is you got through the program, now you're back in it. You got let out of jail, now you're back in jail. Recidivism rate for normal population hovers around 60%. It fluctuates.
Yeah.
For Veterans Court, we sit between 6 and 9%.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Huge difference.
It is a successful program.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So that's a large part.
Yeah, and it's got to be great to be a part. Great to be a part of, getting these guys' lives on track again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's honorable what you do and you continue to do. Like I said, going from CW5 in the 80s all the way through to 2008, it's incredible service. You're continuing to do that, and you're passionate about it, which is the best part. Is you're enjoying it still.
Yeah.
A lot of people that get out, they live vicariously through their past
Yeah.
service. Now, when we see those who are successful and go on to continue to serve, I think that's the common theme
Yeah.
with veterans is you got to find something to stay passionate about. It's not going to be the same as it was in the past, but going forward in the future, helping out others, that's what it's all about. So thank you for your time today and sharing your story.
My pleasure. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Quint. This has been the Medevac Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us today. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, you're going to get something out of this episode. I'm sure you did. So share it with a friend or family member, interact with the content somehow, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you next time.